Let's delve into some intriguing statistics. If you are a musician within popular genres, there's a 20% chance you are a woman. Songwriters, only about 12% are women. Consider audio engineers or music producers, over 95% are men. These statistics may surprise you, especially if you've seen the gradual changes within the music industry. I remember the early days of my band receiving invitations to events exclusively showcasing all female and female-fronted bands. While I appreciated the recognition of our music, it also made me feel conflicted, seeing slogans like "women musicians are as good as their male counterparts and shouldn't be underrated." Nice sentiment, but it never crossed my mind that I wasn't as good as my male counterparts. I mean, arm wrestling may not be my forte against some of the guys, but why should making music be a gender thing? Despite notable progress, achieving gender equality for women in music, especially in genres like rock, has been a slow climb. Rock history has exhibited a historical bias against women. This prompts important questions. How did this happen? And what can we do about it? In this video, we'll explore the role of women in Western rock music. Then we'll delve into gender inequality in the Chinese rock scene and discuss implications for the future. Again, some information is drawn from my research at UCL, and I hope you enjoyed the content. Since the late 1970s, we've seen a rise in the number of women rock musicians. Despite this, their presence remains sparse, particularly female instrumentalists and producers. Even during the 90s, marked by many successful women-led guitar bands, Billboard's modern rock charts were still occupied predominantly by males. Today, major music festivals still feature disproportionately few female headliners. A 2022 BBC report found that only 13% of UK headliners at the top 50 music festivals were female. The gendering of rock has deep roots. Why is this? Some argue that physical demands during touring and equipment setups can be challenging, but biological factors aren't the real hurdles. Instead, literature points to social obstacles. Firstly, rock music has long upheld a masculine identity, actively excluding women. The loud volumes, aggressive self-expression, and rebellious nature of rock have perpetuated a misogynist ideology. The intricate nature of rock instruments has further marginalized women. The historical association of technology with masculinity discouraged women from engaging with music technology. Clausen found that, although many women joined mixed bands as instrumentalists, it didn't reduce gender inequality. Instead, it reinforced it, because the majority of women played the bass, and the lack of female lead guitarists solidified men's positions. Studies consistently show that women instrumentalists often feel a lack of respect for their musical ability, and are often thought to have little say in contributing to musical materials. Another interesting fact is that some women reported gaining respect from the audience because the audience didn't expect a woman to play the guitar or drums. However, this may make things even worse, because it suggests women were assessed by a lowered standard. This also bothers me. I personally perceive myself as a terrible guitarist. Though I like to think I'm a good songwriter, but a terrible guitarist. Not because I'm a woman, but because I don't practice enough, which is bad. Despite this, I receive compliments on my guitar skills from time to time, which I know I don't deserve. Additionally, rock's heavy association with alcohol and drugs, as explored in the previous video, has further gendered this genre, because drinking is often seen as a male bonding activity. In the patriarchal norm, the only role within a rock group most legitimate for women is the singer, because singing has a natural delineation of femininity, and this has led to a greater number of female vocalists than instrumentalists. Most frequently discussed in past literature is the perpetual struggle women face against the male gaze. Being perceived as an object of heterosexual men's desire poses a huge barrier for women to be taken seriously as musicians. Event organizers and record labels are aware that a woman in a band attracts an audience, but the emphasis on physical attractiveness can overshadow her music abilities. So many women choose to downplay their femininity by dressing and acting like one of the boys to avoid being trivialized. Although the riot girl movement in the 1990s called on women to express their anger while not repressing their femininity in terms of dressing and postures, it seems to have inadvertently separated the history of women rockers from a more mainstream narrative. Bands like Hole, L7, Babes in Toyland, although not part of this movement, have been conveniently grouped into riot girl, further reinforcing the perception of the rock canon as predominantly male exclusive. Another obstacle is the gatekeepers effect. Scholars have argued that while female musicians existed, few were recorded. This aligns with Green's claim in classical music and Armstrong's argument about women's contributions in science and technology. As most producers, DJs, heads of record companies are men, they hold the power to decide whom to promote. Some argue that women lack the cognitive and physical capacities for innovative music making. There's also a tendency to present female artists in specific ways. For instance, figures like Patti Smith and Janis Joplin are often depicted as tomboys to pose little threat to the masculinity of the rock culture. Furthermore, media disproportionately focuses on female musicians' physical appearance and love stories rather than their musical talents or artistic achievements. Flower, a track from Liz Phair's Exile in Guyville, has received extensive press discussions over her blatant depiction of women's sexual desire, leaving its musical contents rarely discussed.
Every time I see your face, I think of things unpure, unchained. I want to go I'll take you home and make you like it. Everything you ever wanted, everything you ever.
In 1986, Cui Jian's concert in Beijing Workers' Stadium is considered the birth of rock in China. His 1989 album, 新长征路上的摇滚 Rock and Roll on a New March, introduced the term 摇滚. In this section, we'll skip detailed discussions about the history, political connotations, or artistic traits of Chinese rock, as covered extensively in past literature. Instead, we'll focus on investigating whether the gender issues identified in Western contexts have been transplanted into the Chinese context along with the music itself. Chinese rock, influenced by Western rock ethos, also inherited a male-centric attitude. This is evident in lyrics that often objectify women and the fact that both rock musicians and audiences are predominantly male. Before 1998, Cobra was the only all-female band known in mainland China. In an interview, female instrumentalists from Tree Village revealed the challenges of fitting into the boys' homosocial environment and dealing with potential sexual harassment. The unfriendly environment for women in Chinese rock is heightened by the social context in which rock emerged. While Confucianism, the traditional Chinese ethos, had already been sexually constraining enough, the government then banned many sexually explicit art forms, including tongsu music, to repress sexual desire and eliminate gender differences. This peaked in the Cultural Revolution when men and women were required to wear the same conservative uniform and sing the same patriotic mass songs. In a radical manner, for a short period, Chinese women were liberated from a subordinate position and traditional family constraints. This resulted in the observable phenomenon of yin sheng yang shui, meaning the thriving of femininity and collapsing of masculinity. Scholars have also argued that the influx of Western culture after the open door policy in 1978 further intensified a sense of impotence in Chinese men, leading to a masculinity reconstruction in the mid-1980s. As noted by Bernays, literary works flourished with virility and sexual powers, seemingly compensating for the perceived loss of masculinity. Rock was viewed as a powerful tool for reconstructing gender differences. Given that these social shifts coincided with the introduction of rock to China, it may explain, at least partially, why women were marginalized at the beginning of the Chinese rock history. Another common topic is the association of rock with politics, which also affected women's participation. In 1989, while Cui Jian's works gained huge popularity during political reform pursuits, some argue that women in rock were more inclined to write about personal stories rather than politics. Cui himself denied any political connotations in his early songs, while Chu suggests women's seemingly apolitical stance might be an alternative form of being political. Research on female rockers' social political attitude in China is limited, so it's unclear if their apolitical attitude was a disguise or a practical choice. The implications here are twofold. Either women weren't interested enough in politics, or the political undertones in their art went mostly unnoticed. Whether Cui Jian's disassociation from politics was for self-protection, or women's implicity clashed with the rock spirit. The result is clear. Women didn't enjoy an equal place in politics, either by choice or by circumstance. While women singers have always been embraced, it wasn't until the mid-2000s that China began to accept more female rock instrumentalists. Social changes around the new millennium played a role in this shift. As making a living through music became challenging, rock musicians embraced full-time jobs, leading to a shift in attitude and lifestyle, from extreme bohemianism to a more light-hearted approach. Rossetti observes that as Chinese rock diversified into various subgenres and moved from political catharsis to pure entertainment, the image of Chinese rockers became more middle class, potentially fostering greater acceptance of women in this genre. Some scholars attribute the acceptance of women in rock to the popularization of music software and online communities, liberating musicians from record company dependence in music production and distribution. However, it's crucial to consider the social dimensions of technology. The masculine delineation of technology may impact women's confidence in mastering musical technologies. Conversations with female musicians by Chu also revealed disinterest in musical technologies, emphasizing that the emergence of music technology alone may not be a straightforward factor in advancing gender equality. Another significant factor highlighted by research is the growing demand of a woman's presence on stage, driven by the proliferation of live houses and music festivals. However, this has presented a familiar dilemma. Are female musicians treated as serious artists or reduced to mere objects of desire? Despite many Chinese women downplaying their femininity to gain respect for their musical ability, this doesn't fundamentally address gender inequality. It suggests that being feminine is inferior. Moreover, no matter how women on stage hide their femininity, it doesn't eliminate the natural fascination heterosexual men may have with their bodies. During events in the past 10 years, I've often heard comments from male audiences like, "Didn't pay attention to what she was playing, but she has big boobs." Or, "She's a good guitarist, but I don't like her face." The idea of performing has also objectified the male body for spectators, so why do we rarely hear complaints about spectatorship dilemma from men? Acknowledging sexual desire as part of human nature and the driving force in many activities is challenging and unnecessary to forbid fascination with another person. A thing can be both aesthetically beautiful and practically useful, so my way of looking at this is that being attracted to one aspect and neglecting the other could be the observer's flaw, not a problem of the subject. An implication here might be a long-term improvement of education for everyone. Alternatively, perhaps a more practical solution is not to repress the male gaze or dismantle the Guyville, but to create an equal environment where women can openly gaze the male body without criticism. Of course, both should be based on mutual respect. Before drawing conclusions, it's crucial to acknowledge that a broader issue for all Chinese rock musicians is the relative marginalization of rock music within China's mainstream standards. So fellow musicians and fans, we should stick together. It's also worth noting that gender inequity, which extends beyond discrimination against women, permeates not only the music industry, but society as a whole. As argued by Baton, sexism is pervasive, so expecting bands to be different from the broader societal context would be unrealistic. Therefore, to combat gender inequality in the rock scene, we must consider a bigger picture, which is beyond the scope of our discussion. However, to contribute minimally to achieving gender equality in the rock scene, some practices are worth considering. Firstly, music schools specializing in modern music can recruit more female teachers for rock music instruction. Given the impact of a role model on building confidence, having a higher percentage of women teaching guitar, bass, drums, composing, and music production skills can encourage more girls to write songs or start a band, ultimately reshaping the public perception of rock as a gendered activity. Admittedly, this may be challenging given the current gender ratio in rock music, but with an increasing number of female rock musicians, it's possible to initiate this change. About curriculum materials, it's urgent for pop music schools to introduce more songs written and performed by female musicians, focusing on analyzing the music content rather than appearance. Meanwhile, addressing gender issues in music classrooms through teacher training is crucial. Within families, parents should respect their children's musical choices regardless of gender norms, fostering a supportive environment for girls girls to challenge stereotypes. This will also benefit boys. I've seen parents discouraging their son from taking singing lessons simply because they perceive singing as a girly activity. Musicians, representative organizations, and event organizers can draw inspiration from successful Western models. Promoting more women's works and paying more attention to gender diversity during events can counteract the gatekeepers effect. While Glastonbury has faced criticism for its historical imbalanced gender split on lineups, Emily Evers, its co-organizer, has suggested 2 of the headliners in 2024 will be women. However, efforts toward gender equality should be approached with prudence. Statement Festival, Sweden's first all-female music festival, faced accusations of discrimination against men. Therefore, we should avoid unintentionally marginalizing any group. As we conclude our discussion, we may have overlooked a crucial aspect: music and musicians, which is more important. I'm not suggesting that music overweighs musicians, since music comes from the latter. Understanding a musician's traits, social standing, and gender is essential in comprehending the musical work. Music serves as a form of expression, so perhaps it's always people that are more important. Gender makes up only a tiny fraction of a person, so I hope one day greater attention will be paid to a good piece of music itself, regardless of whether it was written by a woman or man. Envisioning a future where discussions like this become unnecessary. Guyville, whatever. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the like button and subscribe. For questions, leave a comment below. Thank you again for your support. See you in the next video.